Time now for Back Pages tonight here on Sky Sports News, bringing you a first look at the sports stories in the morning's newspapers. And joining us tonight are Charlotte Dunker, football reporter for The Times, and the Mirror's chief football writer, John Cross. Welcome along to you both. We'll hear from you shortly. Let's just quickly run you through the back pages as they stand this Monday evening. Back page of The Times, Guardiola sounded out by England City manager to decide future in next few weeks. You can see there Ben Stokes is pictured. Ben Stokes back to face Pakistan in the second test in Multan. It's the back page of The Guardian. And they also have their Pep talk for England. Guardiola is dream long shot for FA as it looks past Carsley. Also at the bottom, Europe's top league join forces against abusive FIFA, talking about the increase in the fixture schedule. Back to the back page of the Mirror. FA sound out Pep, England manager sensation, they call it. Three Lions chiefs make approach to City boss, who is their dream target. And also just a little bit on Manchester United, never far away from the headlines. Injury hit United to put Evans at fullback, such as their injury crisis. Back page of the Express, they also go on the potential of Pep Guardiola joining England as new head coach, replacing Lee Carsley, who's in interim charge. FA's bid to lure Pep City boss sounded out over England vacancy. Back page of the Sun. Stop messing with us, Pep. Don't flirt with England job. Either you want it or you don't. Pep Guardiola there pictured as he was doing an interview with an Italian chat show over the last couple of days or so. FIFA player abuse claim there at the top as well. Back page of the Eye. Carsley speaking out on jobs hasn't helped me before. Yes, the sort of narrative around Lee Carsley potentially getting the job full-time has changed, hasn't it, in the wake of the defeat to Greece, even though England did beat Finland in their last Nations League game. Let's have a look at the front page of the Telegraph sports section. Guardiola stands out about FA over manager's job. You can see they're at the bottom, but their main story, an exclusive from Daniel Schofield and Ben Rumsby, is former England prop was told to lie about dementia. And back page of the Star, get Pep. FA pursue City boss for top job. Anything can happen, he says. And Carsley backs foreigner for role. We know that Lee Carsley has been, obviously, his news conferences have been heavily scrutinised in recent days. OK, welcome along once again to Charlotte and to John. Charlotte, I know it was your paper at the Times that were really sort of like strong on this story involving Pep Guardiola. But John, I'm actually going to go to you first because you've written on this, haven't you, for the Mirror tomorrow. Pep Guardiola being sounded out about becoming the next England head coach. I mean, it's funny because, I remember we had a chat. Was it just about a week ago? Maybe it was certainly obviously before the Greece game, and we were talking about it being Carsley's job to lose. Things have shifted, haven't they?
Yeah, well, the last week maybe suggests that he has lost it. I mean, if the remit was to win all 6 games and then basically not really put a foot wrong, then I'd probably say that Lee Carsley, has had a bit of a roller coaster week, really, losing that game, trying to cram all the attacking players in against Greece, losing that game and then tripping himself up a few times in press conferences, really. I do like Lee Carsley. I think he's very honest. I think he's seriously, searingly honest, and he's a genuinely nice guy and clearly a very good coach to have reached even this level. But I do feel that the landscape has shifted. I think, to be honest, the FA have sort of really trying to sort of press home, say that it's an exhaustive process. I do think that Carsley has at points been a candidate and been in the running, but it has obviously emerged then that the FA have sounded out Guardiola at Manchester City. Guardiola, of course, his contract is up at the end of the season, and you are left with a situation with a brilliantly talented England generation looking for a manager to guide them and to kind of almost turn them from a couple of finals with the Euros into winners, really. This generation has got the potential, in my view, to go on and win for the next sort of kind of 5 or 6 cycles, really. I mean, it's an absolutely fantastic opportunity. And I do think then the FA are clearly aiming high, and you've got to applaud them for that. I'm sure the FA, bearing in mind the sort of the timing of this, are probably, I don't know, quite almost happy that they're basically they're seen to be doing, because there's been a few sort of kind of critiques about, what's going on with the process. They're clearly sounding out people along the way. The Times, originally reporting that Guardiola was sounded out after the Euro, so way back in the summer. and still maybe considering it. Look, I do think they're going to have a hell of a task here to kind of get him away from City. That's the point. They're aiming high. You have to applaud that ambition, because I think Guardiola is an absolute genius, the best manager around, the best manager in the world by an absolute country mile. I think he's absolutely fabulous, been great for City, been great for the Premier League. And look, to get him out of there when City will be desperate to keep him. And also Guardiola is known, in the past for sometimes having a bit of a break, between jobs. So who knows, he might want to rest, really. It's an ambitious target. It will please a lot of England fans. I do think it's a good, really good story, and it's out there. But do I see it happening? I don't, to be honest. I do think that the FA are closing in, shortening the shortlist, if you like. But I don't see it being Guardiola. But it's one that I personally would love to see. I think it would be a great appointment. But
Charlotte, let's bring you in here. Ambitious, yes. Outlandish, unrealistic. What's your view on it?
I don't think we can say that it's unrealistic. I think if you look at that job advert that England put out, didn't they, for the sort of manager that they want, he is the dream, isn't he? He ticks every single box. He's the sort of person that if you were doing a job application and his job, a CV landed on your desk, you'd be like, wow, yeah, 100% in all the areas. But like you say, he's the best manager in the world. So it would be negligent of the FA not to have made contact with him, not to have seen what he thought. But it's like he says, has he made his decision about what he's going to do at Manchester City? When he says that, I genuinely don't believe that he has. Lots of things are changing there. Cheeky Beggar Steering's leaving. He has a really, really close relationship with him. The last time he extended his contract at City, he said he had a lot to do with it. He had a lot to do with him staying. He's leaving at the end of the season. Will that make him change his mind? Will he decide to extend for another year? Will, like John say, will he take a sabbatical? Does he want to go into national team management? Obviously, the pace is a lot different. Is that something that he wants to change and go into? So, yeah, it is outlandish. Is it impossible? No. Is it unlikely? Probably. But, I mean, as John said, I think everyone who likes watching England and sees the talent that is within that squad, and he's had a lot to do with the talent that's in that squad in terms of bringing it through, nurturing it. We can see the impact that he's had on a lot of young English players. I think a lot of people would like to see it happen, but is it likely? I don't know. I'm not too sure.
I wonder when you look at the other names that are in the frame, John. We heard earlier in one of the headlines there, one of the papers, I think it might have been the Star, Carsley backing foreigner for the role. How do you think that is stacked right now? That it could be someone who comes through the St George's Park pathway, or that it might be a big name foreign manager. How do you see that, John?
Yeah, I do think it's a close call, really. Eddie Howe is the obvious English candidate, isn't he? With things changing at Newcastle, do the FA think they've got a chance there? I think he'd be a good appointment. Listen, there's a lot of people that will always say it should be an Englishman, it should be the same nationality. That's not in the rules, so you don't have to play with, by that. Years ago, I used to think get the best man for the job, and then I went through a phase of thinking, well, actually, do you know what? I actually think that if you buy into the St George's Park system, then it should be an English coach. I'll tell you what, if you do appoint a foreign coach, it is saying that we haven't produced someone through the St George's Park system that is, going to sort of be good enough to be England manager. I think Thomas Tuchel is obviously one that's, the name keeps on cropping up. And again, I think a sort of a stellar foreign name. So I think there's a few in there. I'd be surprised if it were Graham Potter. I think Graham Potter has made noises recently, hasn't he? Sort of even on Sky's fascinating Monday night show with him, that basically, he was more focused on a club role. But I do think that sort of kind of the FA just feel as if they're anxious to kind of put this to bed, that basically the process hasn't gone far down the road. They are speaking to people. They are further down the line. And I do think that they really want to get someone in before World Cup qualifying starts. And, and they can say thanks very much indeed to Lee Carsley, or indeed Carsley might be part of the future setup. Who knows? I think he's done a decent job, but I do think they'll need a top name to kind of really embrace and take this squad, this wonderful squad, forward.
If we look at the back page of The Sun, they've gone very second person, very direct in their wording. Stop messing with us, Pep, they say, Charlotte. Don't flirt with England job. Either you want it or you don't. Is he is he, flirting with it? Is he being a little coy? I mean, we saw him on that, Italian chat show, and it was that sort of, to and fro with the presenters. Well, look, if I don't ask you, then I'm going to be told, why didn't you ask him? And, and he said, well, it's because I just don't know. Do you truly believe that deep down? Or do you think that there is a little bit of games being played here?
Well, I think you're talking about a man in terms of Pep Guardiola who has dealt with the media for many, many years. He knows exactly what he's doing. If he'd have come out on that Italian chat show and said, oh, I've decided I'm staying at Manchester City, everyone would have been up in arms saying, well, he was only asked about that in his press conference last Friday and he said he didn't know. And he was asked when the supporters put that flag out for him ahead of the last home game, that sort of thing. So I think the first person that knows won't be an Italian chat show host. I think Guardiola will decide how he wants that information to come out. I'm not sure. Maybe he will go back on that TV show and give him the world exclusive. But I think that wasn't the point of him going on there. I think he's going to, obviously Manchester City are going to know first. And from everyone you speak to there, he hasn't decided yet or hasn't let it know that he's decided what he's going to do. So I would have been really surprised if he'd come out and said it last night. So I think it was a way of keeping all the doors open. He can't say that he has decided if he hasn't, and he doesn't want to close any options down, does he? So I genuinely think he was being truthful, but having sat through many a Pep Guardiola press conference in my time, sometimes it is hard to judge just exactly what it is he's trying to say to you.
Yeah, no, you're right. He's a very skilled operator in this sense. And also, look, he holds all the cards. He holds all the cards, whether it's extension, whether it's a break, whether it's England. He can make his choice. And he's only 53, remember. So, he's got plenty of time if he wants to go into international football, I guess. The other story there on the back page of The Sun, Carsley won't be Lion King. I just want to go back to this point, John, about just how things have changed around Lee Carsley. Obviously, the nature of the Greece defeat, not just the defeat, but the nature of it. Then, the hopefully I'll be back to the 21s. Now it seems that everyone is just simply saying FA are not going to consider him for the full-time position. I mean, is this that surprising to you, or did you really get a sense from him as a man that scrutiny that he would be under as a full-time England head coach would something that he wouldn't be comfortable with?
Yeah, I think it was a consideration from David. I really do. I think that, for example, I think that the fallout and the coverage perhaps of Thursday night's defeat, I think that, I think he's sensitive to some of the criticism. And I think some of that must have hurt on Friday, frankly. I think that he's perhaps always had some reservations about whether he would want the job, whether that's in conversation or kind of being blunt or more formal about that. You paid your money, it takes your choice on that one. But I do feel as if there was a nice momentum after those first two games when England played ever so well, played really nice, attractive, fast football against Republic of Ireland and Finland. There was a lot of goodwill behind him, and I remember sort of asking, are you up for it? And he did sort of say, yeah, I think I'm up for it. I think I am. And basically, I think his sort of interpretation of that wasn't so strong, but basically we read it as, yeah, I'm up for the job and I can win trophies, because that's what he went on to say. So, I do feel as if he's still in that development stage. I do think he knows a lot of those young players who would have a nice connection. I think if he'd done exceptionally well in these 6 games, then he would have made himself a strong candidate. But the fact of the matter was that he did lose that game against Greece. He didn't look entirely comfortable afterwards. There was a few missteps about what he said and what he means. And I just think perhaps at this stage he's not quite ready for it. I do think, though, you could trust him without a shadow of a doubt. If you're then appointing a manager who's in a job until next summer, I still feel that you could trust him right up until next summer to do a very safe pair of hands, to work with the players. And I think he'll learn lessons and be a better coach for it, I think. But I do think the FA process is very sharp, ongoing, and I do think they'll make a good appointment, actually. I do have a faith that the next man, they'll get a quality manager who's able to embrace and improve this squad.
OK, we'll take a quick break, and when we come back, we'll look at more of the back pages, including this in the Telegraph, as we really change tack and change tone and deal with a very, very delicate subject, dementia in rugby union. And we'll be come back in with John and with Charlotte in just a couple of minutes. You are watching Back Pages tonight. Welcome back to you at home. Welcome back to Charlotte Duncan, football reporter for The Times, and also the Mirror's chief football writer, John Cross. John, we're going to go to the back page of the Telegraph, or the front page of the Telegraph sports section, I should say, and a very delicate story. And it's to do with dementia. It's to do with a rugby player, former rugby player, retired Wasps prop Will Green, who felt pressured to join a lawsuit even after a second scan showed that he had no signs of brain damage, so he was told to lie about his diagnosis. I wonder if you could just flesh this out for us.
Yeah, so basically there's been a group action led by a solicitor, Richard Boardman, who has basically, as the Telegraph reports here, recruited potentially vulnerable former players to join the action led by his firm, Rylands Garth. And basically, Green, I think, basically he claims in this interview here that he felt pressured into joining this action, and then basically has really given a very, very powerful interview, because then he was then sued and then hit back really about it after he sort of kind of didn't want to give evidence. Listen, I think it's an incredibly powerful and strong story. It's an incredibly eye-catching headline there. The Telegraph, I must take my hat off to them. Some of the reporting that they have done across various sports on dementia is really, really powerful and strong. You know, you've had regularly on the guest here, Jeremy Wilson, who's done some remarkable stuff about dementia in football. And again, this is clearly a huge issue in rugby and something that absolutely needs to be explored. But at the crux of it, you have Will Green here saying that basically, yes, I view this as an incredibly serious issue, but I felt pressured to give evidence when the fact of the matter is that I actually didn't feel as if I had symptoms. And indeed, having had medical checks, he thinks he's been cleared on a couple of occasions. And he actually then goes on to give a powerful interview in which he talks about that kind of feeling pressured, really. It's really powerful stuff. It's strong stuff from the Telegraph. And I do think it makes a very different change of tack and a powerful front page for them.
Yeah. As you mentioned, I mean, this is such a delicate issue, and we know that in football, how former players have struggled after they have retired. It's been so difficult to see. We talk about the heroes of 1966, etc., and then in rugby even more so. And we'll keep an eye on that story, as you mentioned in the Telegraph there, John. Okay, let's go back.
David, I just wondered whether I could just mention I did actually do a very powerful interview with the former Scotland international Willie Donaghy at the weekend, whose beloved wife and a couple of former teammates very close to him have been diagnosed with dementia, and he spoke so powerfully, so emotionally about it. Sport comes together in these instances, and it's such a powerful, emotive issue. It really is. So it's as I say, very good reporting from the Telegraph today. Yeah.
Thank you. Obviously, it's a matter that you value as well, and it's close to you for doing that interview, John. Let's move on to the back page of the Mail. Benjamin Mendy, and Charlotte, I know you've been covering this story, turned down Manchester City offer to pay up to £6 million a year deal in the hope of returning to Pep Guardiola's squad. This is what the tribunal heard yesterday, and some other details that have come out in what we heard yesterday as well.
Yeah, so today was the first of a two-day tribunal hearing, because Mendy is suing Manchester City, his former employer, for loss of earnings of up to £11 million. So for anyone who can't remember, obviously he was suspended by the FA, and then subsequently Manchester City wasn't able to play, and he was sent to prison for quite a few months period of time, and he was trialled on various counts of rape, which he was eventually acquitted for in January last year. Ever since then, he's had the idea to take Manchester City to this tribunal because he believes that he should have been paid. Now he's been acquitted for the months that he wasn't playing. His agent gave evidence today to say that he had phone conversations with Omar Barada, who's obviously at Manchester United now, but was at Manchester City at the time, to say that he was under the impression that if his client was acquitted, that he would be given all of the money back that he was due to be paid over his contract. We heard the level of that contract. He was getting paid £6 million a year. That's without the bonuses that these footballers get for winning trophies. And we know Manchester City have won a lot of trophies in that period of time. So him and his team are seeking 11 million back in wages, plus I think it's about another $500,000 in interest they think he should be owed. And Manchester City is saying that he breached his contract. He was arrested by the police. He breached bail conditions. He breached COVID conditions when that was a thing about having people in your house. He held parties there. So Manchester City's argument is that he disrespected that contract that he signed. He breached the terms of and conditions of that contract, and therefore they're not within the jurisdiction to pay that £11 million. So it's a 2-day tribunal hearing. Tomorrow it should finish, and then we haven't been given a timeline yet as to when the outcome of the decision of that tribunal will be heard. But Mendy's obviously hoping that he'll get all that money back in full, and Manchester City are standing firm in the ground that he doesn't deserve to be paid that cash.
John, we're a little short on time. Let's go to the back page of The Guardian. Europe's top leagues join forces against abusive FIFA. Joining forces with FIFPro, the players' union. How significant a step do you think this is in this topic around fixture congestion and player welfare?
Oh, incredibly, David. I really do. I think, obviously, FIFPro now have laid down before the European Commission this case. Really, at the heart of it is in the hope of trying to pressurise FIFA into thinking again and potentially cancel the Club World Cup. That's at the heart of it. I think once you have this collective together, so you've kind of got the leagues and the players together, then I think it's an incredibly powerful motion. It feels like almost all sides of the game are up against FIFA, who are determined to put on this kind of razzmatazz and show next year in the States. So I do think them coming together is an irresistible force. I do think that the players should be listened to, should be respected, should have a greater say. And it's great, actually, that the unions, the player unions and player representatives are really taking their case forward and having a voice and having their say now. I think FIFA would do very well to listen, to change it perhaps, or scale it back in some way. I know that would be painful, but there's a lot of loud voices in the room and they should be heard.
Yeah, and they are certainly growing as well. OK, thank you very much indeed to John and to Charlotte. It's been a pleasure speaking to you on some challenging issues, certainly this evening here on Back Pages tonight. If you missed the show, by the way, another chance to see Back Pages at 1:30. Show's available as a podcast. Just simply download Back Pages. Simple as that. Join us again Tuesday night. Our guests will be the Independent's Miguel Delaney and Charlie Wyatt from The Sun. We have plenty of Nations League action to bring you, and for Wales' Craig Bellamy, it's another win, and the unbeaten streak continues as Wales make history under their new boss.
Are we all okay? We good? We're good.